Good day everyone. I am Christian Jericho Almero. I'm assigned to report about Presidential Decree 1096 adopting in National Building Code of the Philippines, thereby revising Public Act number 6541. So my topic is all about Chapter 6 to Chapter 10, where we're going to discuss first fire-resistive requirements in construction. So, Section 01, fire-resistive rating defined. Fire-resistive rating means the degree to which a material can withstand fire as determined by generally recognized and accepted testing methods. So, this section means one material is being measured and given a rate on how high it can resist fire. Second, Section 602, fire-resistive time period rating is the length of time material can withstand being burned, which may be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and 4 hours, etc. So, this means one material is measured on how long it can resist fire. Third, Section 603, Fire System Standards. All materials, construction, and assemblies or combination thereof shall be classified according to their fire retardant or flame spread ratings as determined by general accepted testing methods and or by the Secretary. There are materials that claims that they can resist fire. However, there are certain standards to be followed. It should be also tested before they can claim fire resistance. Next, Section 604, Fire System Regulations. The Secretary shall prescribe standards and promulgate rules and regulations on the testing of construction materials for flame spread characteristics, test of fire damages, fire test of building, construction, and materials. Door assemblies and tin-clad fire doors and window assemblies. The installation of fire doors and windows and smoke and fire detectors for fire protective signaling systems. Application and use of controlled interior finish. Fire system protection for structural members. Fire system walls and partitions. Fire system floor or roof ceiling. Fire system assemblies for protection of openings and fire retardant roof coverings. So from this section, there are certain standards and rules for testing the construction of materials for fire testing, also on how to assemble and where to place it in a certain area. And all of those rules should be followed to avoid any complication. To Chapter 7, Classification and General Requirement of all buildings by use of occupancy. Section 701, Occupancy Classified. Buildings proposed for construction shall be identified according to the use or the character of each occupancy and shall be classified as follows: Group A, residential dwellings; Group B, residential hotels and apartments; Group C, education and recreation; Group D, institutional; Group E, business and mercantile; Group F, industrial; Group G, storage and hazardous. Under this, Division 1, storage and handling of hazardous and highly flammable materials. Division 2, storage and handling of flammable materials, dry cleaning tanks using flammable liquids, paint stores with bulk handling, paint shops and spray painting rooms. Division 3, woodworking establishments, planing mills and box factories, shops, factories where loose combustible fibers or dust are manufactured, processed or generated, warehouses where highly combustible material is stored. Division 4, repair garages. Division 5, aircraft repair hangars. So Group H, assembly other than Group 1. Division 1, any assembly building with a stage and a an occupant load of less than 1,000 in the building. Division 2. Any assembly building without stage and having an occupant load of 300 or more in the building. Division 3. Any assembly building without a stage and having an occupant load less than 300 in the building. Division 4. Stadia, reviewing stands, emission structures not included with Group 1 or in Division 1, 2, 3 of this group. Then Group Group I. Assembly occupant load 1,000 or more. Group J. Accessory. Division 1. Private garage, carport, sheds, and agriculture buildings. Division 2. Fences over 1 meters high, plants, and towers. So for this section, it allows us to know the classification of occupancy. This way, this classification can be thoroughly examined. What are the requirements needed? Section 702. Change in use. No change shall be made in the character of occupancy or use of any building which should place the building in a different division of the same group of occupancy or in a different group of occupancies unless such building is made to comply with the requirements of this code or division or group of occupancy. So this means there shall be no changes on the occupancy category on a building example. If the building was a commercial building before and that is being used in hospital, that is not allowed not unless the building is made to comply with the requirements code for such division. Next is section 703, mixed occupancy. There are general requirements when a building is of mixed occupancy or used for more than one occupancy. The whole building shall be subject to the most restrictive requirements pertaining to any of the type of occupancy found therein except in the following. A. When a one-story building houses more than one occupancy, which each portion of the building shall conform to the requirement of the particular occupancy housed therein. And number 2. Where minor accessory uses do not occupy more than 10% of the area of any floor of a building or a building, nor more than 10% of the basic area permitted in the occupancy requirements, in which case the major use of the building determines the occupancy classification. B. Forms of occupancy separation. C. Types of occupancy separation. And D is fire rating for occupancy separation. So this means that the building is a multi-purpose building which may have more than one occupancy. It will be subjected to more restrictive requirements which can abide to both occupancy requirements. So next, section 704, location of property. First, general. B. Fire resistance of walls. C. Buildings on same property and buildings containing courts. So it means the location of the building shall have a direct access to public space yard. The property line should be considered adjacent to the street. So section 705, allowable floor areas. For purposes of this section, each portion of a building separation by one or more area separation walls may be considered a separate building provided the area separation walls meet the requirements prescribed therefore by the Secretary. There should be one or more area separation walls should be considered and shall be in accordance to the prescribed requirements of the Secretary. 6. Allowable floor area increases. The floor areas herein above provided may be increased in certain specific instances and under appropriate conditions. Based on the existence of public space, streets or yards extending along and adjoining two or more sides of the building or structure subject to the approval of building officials. It means floor area may be increased with specific conditions and also shall be approved by the building official. Next, section 707, maximum height of buildings. So in this section, it means the height of the building per floor depends on how the building is gonna be used. It will depend on the occupancy classification. Next, section 708, minimum requirements for group A dwellings, A dwelling location and lot occupancy. The dwelling shall occupy not more than 90% of a corner lot and 80% of an inside lot, and subject to the provisions on easement of light in view of the Civil Code of the Philippines, shall be at least 2 meters from the property line. So 2 meters from the property line. B. Light and ventilation. Every dwelling shall be so constructed and arranged as to provide adequate light and ventilation as provided under Section 05 of this code. C. Sanitation. Every dwelling shall be provided with at least one sanitary toilet and adequate washing and draining facilities. Foundation. Footing shall be of sufficient size and strength to support the load. The dwelling shall be at least 150 millimeters thick and 600 millimeters below the surface of the ground. So, yang BF to ito. Next, hose. Then, floor. The live load of the first floor shall be at least 200 kilograms per square meter, and for the second floor at least 150 kilograms per square meter. Roof. The wind load for roof shall be at least 120 kilograms per square meter for vertical projection. Stairs. Stairs shall be at least 250 meters in clear width with a rise of 200 mm and a minimum run of 200 mm. So entrance and exit, then electrical requirements and mechanical requirements. So so section 708 explains the minimum requirements for group A dwellings. Then section 709, the secretary. This means that the secretary shall provide rules and regulations for other group occupancy, the covering allowable construction, high-end area. Chapter 8. Light and ventilation. Section 801, General Requirements of Light and Ventilation. Letter A. Subject to the provisions of the Civil Code of the Philippines on basement of light and view, and to the provisions of this part of the code. Every building shall be designed, constructed, and equipped to provide adequate light and ventilation. All buildings shall face a street or public alley or private street which has been duly approved. No building shall be altered nor arranged so as to reduce the size of any room or the relative area of windows or less than that provided for buildings under this code, or to create additional room unless such additional room conforms to the requirements of this code. D. No building shall be enlarged so that the dimensions of the required court or yard would be less than that prescribed for such building. So this section, buildings shall be provided with the proper light installation. Also, it shall face a street or public alley. Also, it shall follow the prescribed dimension of any room. Then, section 802, measurement of site occupancy. The measurement of site occupancy or lot occupancy shall be taken at a ground level and shall be exclusive of courts, yards, and light wells. Courts, yards, and light wells shall be measured clear of all projections from the walls enclosing such wells or yards, with the exception of roof leaders, wall copings, seals, or steel fire escapes not exceeding 1.2 meters in width. Section 803, percentage of site occupancy. Maximum site occupancy shall be governed by the use, type of construction, and height of the building, and the use, area, nature, and the location of the site, and subject to the provisions of the local zoning requirements and in accordance with the rules and regulations promulgated by the Secretary. Then size and dimensions of courts. Minimum size of courts and their listed dimensions shall be governed by the use, type of expansion, and the height of the buildings provided in the rules and regulations promulgated by the Secretary, provided that the minimum horizontal dimension of courts shall be not less than 2 meters. B. All inner courts shall be connected to a street or yard, either by a passageway with a minimum width of 1.2 meters, or by a door to a room or rooms. This means that minimum horizontal dimensions of court shall not be less than 2 meters and inner court shall be connected by a passageway with minimum width of 1.2. So, section 805, ceiling height. Habitable rooms provided with artificial ventilation have ceiling heights not less than 2.4 meters, measured from the floor to the ceiling, provided that for buildings or more than one story, the minimum ceiling height of the first story shall be 2.7 meters, and that for the second story, 2.4 meters, and succeeding story shall have an obstructed typical head clearance or not less than 2.1 meters above the finished floor line. Above stated rooms with a natural ventilation shall have ceiling height not less than 2.7. B. Mezzanine floors shall have a clear ceiling not less than 1.8 meters above and below it. So, section 806, size and dimensions of rooms. Minimum sizes of rooms and their least horizontal limit shall be as follows. Number 1. Rooms for human habitations, 6 square meters with a dimension of 2. So, nagsalamol na kasi siya. Then number 2, kitchens, 3 square meters with a dimension of 1.5. Bali, imong pan dimension sa ni 1.5 by 2. Number 3, bath and toilet, 1.2 square meters with a dimension of 0.9 meters. So, section 807, there is space requirements in determining the size of rooms. A minimum space shall be provided as follows. Full rooms, 3 cubic meters with 1 square meter of floor area per person. Again, 3 cubic meters with 1 square meter of floor area per person. Number 2, workshops, factories, and offices, 12 cubic meters of space per person. Number 3, habitable rooms, 14 cubic meters of space per person. So in this section ay per person and space. So section 808, window opening. Every room intended for any use not provided with artificial ventilation system as specified in this code shall be provided with a window or windows with a total free area of openings equal to at least 10% of the floor area of room. Such window shall open directly to a courtyard, public street or alley or open water courses. So, if a room intended for any use, a window shall be provided, if not a critical ventilation window. Section 809, vent shafts. A. Ventilation or vent shaft shall have a horizontal cross-sectional area of not less than 0.1 square meter for every meter of height of shaft, but in no case shall the area be less than 1 square meter. No vent shaft shall have its this dimension less than 600 mm. B. Skylights, unless open to the other out open the outer at the top for each full area. Vent shaft shall be covered by skylight having a net free area or fixed louver openings equal to the maximum required shaft area. C. Air ducts shall open to a street or port by a horizontal duct or intake at a point below the lowest of window opening. Such duct or intake shall have a minimum unobstructed cross-sectional area of not less than zero point 0.3 square meter with a minimum dimension of 300 mm. The openings to the duct or intake shall not be less than 300 mm above the bottom of the shaft and the street surface or level of the port at the respective ends of the duct or intake. So section 810, ventilation skylight. A skylight shall have a glass area not less than that required for the windows that are replaced. They shall be equipped with movable sashes or louvers with an aggregate net-free area not less than that required for openable parts in the window that are replaced or provided with approved artificial ventilation of equivalent effectiveness. Section 811, special ventilation. Rooms or spaces housing industrial or heating equipment shall be provided with artificial means of ventilation to prevent excessive accumulation of hot or polluted. B. Whenever artificial ventilation is required, the equipment shall be designed and constructed to meet the following minimum requirements and changes. For rooms entirely above grade in use for office, clerical, or military purposes, or as stores, sales rooms, restaurants, markets, factories, machines, and not rooms not less than 3 changes air per hour shall be provided. So, for rooms entirely above the grade 1, I not less than 3 changes of air per hour. So, number 2, for rooms entirely above grade use, bakeries, hotels, restaurants, laundries or other ancillary dwellings and boiler rooms not less than 10 changes of air per hour. So sa mga kanang mga bakery daw, hotel, restaurants, mga kananan, mga kuan, laundry shops, or uban nga kanang ancillary dwellings kay rooms daw na not less than 10 changes of air per hour ang kailangan. For auditorium and other rooms used assembly purposes with seats and other accommodation not less than 0.03 cubic meter of air per minute shall be supplied for each person. So, dili sa 3 kay kanang mga VR rooms, kanang mga cinema, kailangan nila kay not less than 0.03 cubic meter of air changes per minute. Therefore, for wards and dormitories of institutional buildings, not less than 0.45 cubic meter of air per minute shall be supplied for each person. So, dili na po sa kanang mga dorm, mga boarding house, institutional buildings kay 0.45 cubic meter air per minute. Number 5, for other rooms or spaces not specifically covered under this section of the code. Applicable provisions the Philippine Mechanical Engineering Code shall be followed. Chapter 9, Sanitation. So, there are three sections. 901, General. Subject to the provisions of Book 2 of the Civil Code of the Philippines on property, ownership, and its verification, all buildings hereafter erected, altered, removed, relocated, or repaired for human habitation shall be provided with adequate and potable water supply, slum installation, and suitable wastewater treatment or disposal system, storm water drainage, pest and vermin control, noise abatement device, and such other measures required for the protection and promotion of health of persons occupying the premises and other living nearby. So, after a building is erected, it shall be provided with potable and other drainage system. So, ang atong kuhaan diri sa Davao, atong diri sa Davao City kay ang nag-supply sa tuwa kay Water District, Dumoy. So water supply system. Whenever available, the potable water requirements for a building used for human habitation shall be supplied from existing municipal or city water system. So I said earlier, supply sa to diri sa Davao City kay ang water district, Dumoy, then quality of drinking water from meteoric surface or underground sources shall conform to the criteria set in the latest approved national standards for drinking water. So, example na kay siya in the design. Construction and operation of deep wells for the extraction of groundwater shall be subject to the provisions of the Water Code of the Philippines. So, tayo no, magpapatay deep wells ay mga proper na mga kuan requirements narito sa Water Code of the Philippines. Then, there is an instruction and operation of independent water well system of private housing subdivisions or industrial estates shall be governed by existing laws relating to local water work system. So the water piping installations inside buildings and premises shall conform to the provisions of the National Plumbing Code of the Philippines. So kuha na ito dapat mga standard sa gamitan ng mga pipes para secure ka itong kuhan or iwas po ta sa mga leaking. Then, Section 903, wastewater disposal system. Sanitary sewage from buildings, neutralized or filtered material wastewater shall be discharged directly into the nearest strip sanitary sewer main of existing municipal or city sanitary sewage system in accordance with the criteria set by the Code of Sanitation and National Pollution Control Commission. So, no, all buildings located in areas where there are no available sanitary sewerage systems shall dispose their sewage in home or septic tank and subsurface absorption field 5 o land septic tank for mga 1 any building ng septic tank yun. Then, sanitary and national plumbing installations inside buildings and premises shall conform provisions of mic na siya. So, said earlier, dapat nandiyan siya sa National Plumbing Code. Dapat mag-budget mo. Sunod sa dito para okay kayo. Then, Section 904, Storm Drain System. Rainwater drainage shall not discharge to the sanitary sewer system. Adequate provision shall be made to drain low areas and buildings in their premises. Then, Section 905, Pest and Vermin Control. All buildings with hollow and or wood design shall be provided with rat-proofing. Then, garbage bins and receptacles shall be provided with ready means for cleaning with a effective protection against entry of pests and vermin. So, dapat at mga garbage is dapat tayo mga kanang mga spray para iwas sa kanang mga spray nga mga kanang dining rooms for public use without artificial lighting shall be properly screened. Then, Section 906, Noise Pollution Control. Industrial establishments shall be provided with positive noise abatement devices to tone down the noise level of equipment and machinery to acceptable limits set down by the Department of Labor and the National Pollution Control Commission. So, Section 907, pipe materials, all pipe materials to be used in business shall conform to the standard specifications of the Philippine Standard Council. So, dapat ato mga pipe nga mga gamiton kay pasado siya sa Philippine Standard Council. Dapat tapos siya sa dapat standard siya sa kwan sa certain last chapter my report building projection over public streets. So under the section 1001 general requirements, no part of any building or structure or any of its appendages shall project beyond the property line of the building site except as provided in this code. The projection of any structure or any appendage over a public property shall be distance measured horizontally from the property line to the outermost point of the projection. So this means that any building, accessory, or structure shall be within the property line. Then section 1002, projection into alleys or streets. No part of any structure or its appendage shall project into any alley or street, national road or public highway except as provided in this code. So putting together this 2.4 meters below grade along national roads or public highway may project not more than 300 mm beyond the property line. Then foundations. Foundations may be permitted to encroach into public sidewalk areas to a width not exceeding 500 mm, provided that the top of the said foundation is not less than 600 mm below the established grade, provided further that said projection does not obstruct any existing facility such as power, communication, gas, water, or sewer lines unless the owner concerned shall pay to the corresponding entities for the routing the parts of the affected facilities. Then section 1003, protection of balconies in villages over streets. The extent of any projection over an alley or street shall be uniform with a block and shall conform to the limitations set forth in the table 1003A, projection of balconies and villages, Annex B2. So, dadri nasa table 1003. The clearance between the established grade of the street or sidewalk and the lowest undersurface of any part of the balcony should not be less than 3 meters. So, dapat di siya mo at less than 3 meters. Siya may exceed sa 3 meters ang clearance between the established grade, the street or sidewalk. Then, section 1004, arcades. Whenever required by existing building and zoning regulations, arcades shall be constructed on sidewalks of streets. The width of the arcade and its height shall be uniform throughout the street, provided that in no case shall an arcade be less than 3 meters above the established sidewalk. So, dapat less than 3 meters atong arcades. Then, section 1005, canopies or marquees. Nation, canopy or marquee is a permanent roof structure above a door attached to and supported by a building and projecting under a wall or sidewalk. This includes any object or decoration attached thereto. So, balon tanan tanan sa ning canopy structure. is structure siya, above attached to supportive to the building. So, projection and clearance. The horizontal clearance between the outermost edge of the marquee and the carved line shall be not less than 300 mm. The vertical clearance between the pavement of the ground line and the other surface of any part of the marquee cannot be less than 3 meters. So, projection clearance na siya. Mana to kan not less than 300 mm o not be the ground line and the under surface of any part of the marquee cannot be less than 3 meters. So, construction. Marquee shall be constructed in combustible material or any materials not less than 2 hours. Fire-resistive construction shall be provided with necessary drainage facility. So, as chapter 6, dapat naman ni discuss nito ang 2 hours kaning limitation sa fire pan, fire. So, dito sa chapter 6, 602, one material is measured and how long time it is fire. So, kahit ito, 2 hours pa siya, 3 hours, 1 hour. So, 3 expire niya na not less than 2 hours fire system construction. So, location. Every marquee shall be so located as not to interface with the operation of any exterior standpipe connection to obstruct the clear passage from stairway, exit from the building or the installation, maintenance of electrolytes. So, section 1006, movable awnings or hoods, definition. An awning is a movable shelter supported entirely from the exterior wall of the building and of the type, a type which can be protected, folded, or collapsed against the face of supporting building. So, B. Clearance. The horizontal clearance between the awning and the carved line cannot be less than 300 mm. The vertical clearance between the undermost surface of the awning and the pavement of the ground line cannot be less than 2.4 meters. Collapsible awning shall be so designated so that they shall not block a required extent when collapsed or folded. So, dapat mo kuan sa musunod taning mga proper na mga kuan mga pagkuan. So, section 1007, doors, windows, and the like. Doors, windows, the like, less than 2.2 meters above the pavement of the ground line, cannot be fully open or upon opening project beyond the property line except fire exit doors. So, dapat sunod yun sa kuan, proper na mga balaod. So, section 1008, corner buildings with chaplans. Every corner building or solid fence on a public street or alley less than 3.6 meters in width shall be truncated at the corner. The face of the triangle so formed shall be at right angle to the bisector of angle of the intersection of the straight line, provided that in no case the stars shall determine the size in form of chaplan. So if the building is arcaded, no chaplan is required, notwithstanding with the width of the public street or less than 12 meters. So that's all guys. I'll just ask all. Stay safe. Thank you.